LaVelle, it's been a dramatic season. It feels like things are getting even more dramatic as we go in here. The Twins have the horrible end of the road trip. Baldelli rips the team. He pulls Ober at a time when it looked like Ober was dominating the night before that. They come home, they lose their first one, just when you wonder if it's all going to implode. They win 2 straight. They're getting Buxton back. Correa might be around the corner, and they actually might have a very good roster going into the postseason, assuming they get there. Let's review all of that here on Chin Music, our baseball show at TalkNorth.com. Today's lineup: LaVelle E. Neal III, Star Tribune columnist and baseball guru. I'm Jim Souhan, also from the Star Tribune and from Talk North. Royce Smalley, star of the show, might or might not be joining us today. He's got a lot going on, but LaVelle and I will carry on whether he can join us or not. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want to thank Aquarius Home Services, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Chew Vision Institute. Best way to listen to this show or any show you like at Talk North, please subscribe at your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. And you should know the lineup by now. We've added Randy Shaver. We've added Don Mitchell. Randy's doing a high school football show for us this week. Don Mitchell and I talked to Howard Megdal, a big mover and shaker in the world of women's sports coverage. We've got Kevin Gorg, Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanta, John Krasinski on basketball, Jeff Diamond on football. We got it all going on. Check it all out. We do appreciate it. We also have outdoor content. All right, LaVelle, we're talking here on Thursday morning after the Twins have salvaged the beginning of the homestand with 2 straight victories. How are you feeling about the team right now?
It's funny you brought that up, Jim, because I've been thinking about this week, and they've only had Lewis, Buxton, and Correa in the lineup 17 games all season. They've had injuries to 2 pitchers in the starting rotation. They've had to rely on guys who were pitching all the way in A-ball at the beginning of the year. They've had to deal with a hitting drought early in the season till about mid-June, and then another hitting drought in late August, early September. And once you think about everything that's happened to this team up to this point, the fact that they're 10 games over 500 to me is an achievement. Because I think we've been focusing on what they haven't had or what they haven't done or what they can't do. I forgot that the trade with Seattle that brought the Twins 2 pitchers who never pitched for them this year. You know, a lot of stuff has happened to this team. And the fact that they are still holders of a wild card spot and 10 games over 500 down the stretch and seem to be getting healthier, I think is an achievement.
I agree with you. And I do think that the fact that the Polides own the team, that they cut the payroll, and that the front office, in part because they know they need young players and young, affordable talent, didn't sacrifice a bunch of top prospects to get a relief pitcher at the trade deadline. I think that has all cast a pall over the entire season. I think if you look at it the way you just looked at it, it's kind of amazing all the things they've gone through, all the injuries they've had, and they're still in a good position here. Now, it's getting a little tight. I also find it fascinating. This division has suddenly become a very difficult division. Cleveland has had an exceptional season. Kansas City, kind of like the Twins in the early 2000s, they had bad seasons, but when their kids were ready to really play, they made the surge. And now you have Detroit right on the heels of the Twins. Do you consider Detroit a true contender now?
I consider them not a bad team. A contender, I suspect that's a little bit of a stretch, but my goodness, crazier things have happened in baseball playoff races. You've had teams in the driver's seat going into the last week of the season that have crumbled. I'm thinking New York Mets, and have missed out on the postseason. Detroit's just 3 games back behind the Twins for the final playoff spot. That is just crazy to me. But, you just talk to some people around the league, and, Detroit's getting a lot of credit for how they've been playing ball. The young players have gotten better. Riley Green's becoming a good player. They got the kid named Colt, I can't remember his last name. The kid they locked up long-term before playing a game in the majors. Colt Keith, that's his name. And Tariq Skubal, who is probably one of the top 10 starters in baseball this year. So they got pieces there, and the future's looking bright there. I have to go back and look it up. I cannot remember the last time that the AL Central had 4 teams over 500. That is just remarkable. This used to be the flyover division. This used to be the division only had like 1 team that could make the playoffs, but you got 4 teams in the hunt going into September. And so this is going to be a lot of fun, especially when the Twins go to Cleveland next week for 4 humongous games against the Guardians.
Yes, it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's get to what I think was the most interesting moment or let's sequence of moments in the last week or so. And that is Saturday night, Rocco pulls Blake Bailey over. Then Twins bullpen gives it up. They lose just a crushing game. I mean, a lot of baseball losses. Okay, you didn't get a big hit. The other team played 5% better than you. You lost. No big deal. It happens. That was a crushing loss. And then the next day, they don't swing the bats. They don't take good at bats. Rocco rips them. What were you thinking all weekend about those events?
Well, I think it was reaching a crescendo there with everything that was going on, the tough losses and the continued struggles of the offense. You can't make excuses that you don't have a couple of big hitters in there. You got to find a way. You got to be functional and have professional bats. And Rocco did not see that. And he had enough. And this also is a fascinating topic because, I'm trying to figure out who's like the fiery leader in that clubhouse who can like hold teammates accountable. And the two guys who are probably in position to do that have been in the trainer's room for most of the season. You know? So Rocco let him have it. And I talked to someone at the ballpark this week, and they were like, we deserved it, and we need to hear that. They were almost grateful that Rocco unloaded on him. So that may be kind of an inflection point here when they're able to turn things around and move forward here, because we have seen signs of offense. We did see signs of offense during the Angels series, and now they won the series, and now they can start building some more momentum to finish the season strong. But that was going to Kansas City, man. That was you were wondering which way things were going to go, and right now they've been able to stabilize. So we'll see what happens. Right before we start this podcast, the Twins officially reinstated Byron Buxton. So he's going to come back and add some punch to that offense and some Gold Glove defense, and just his energy and his presence in the lineup will mean a lot. So let's see if they can continue to take off from here.
What are you hearing on Correa at this point?
Well, he's starting. Yeah, I listened to him. I sat in a media session with him a couple of days ago, and he had to break through with treatment. It was painful treatment, but it ended up being a good thing in the long run. He's feeling a lot better, and he's been on the field with Buxton this week, facing live pitching. So that's a good sign. He says he's running. He's almost running as hard as he can in cleats. So he was able to do it in running shoes, or whatever you want to call them. But the cleats are giving him problems. It sounds like that part has gotten better to the point where he can go. So, and this is fascinating too. I mean, if it does continue to linger, do you just take whatever version of Correa you have during the last week of the season with the playoff spot on the line, just throw him out there? The Twins might have to consider that. But the fact that he's on the field taking BP and he sounded as optimistic as he has, during the second half of the year in the clubhouse, tells me that he could be nearing an activation point here.
Yeah, I agree with you. Everything I've heard is that sometime next week is a possibility. Of course, it's touch and go. If one day he wakes up and the foot's throbbing, then you got a problem. But I think that's the hope, is that here in a week you might have Buxton, Correa, Royce Lewis all playing in the lineup at the same time, and maybe we're talking here a night after Royce Lewis came within 2 inches of a grand slam. Maybe Royce has broken finally out of that slump.
Right, and the thing about Planner too, Jim, is that it's worse. It's worse in the morning when you get out of the bed and put the foot on the floor. That's when it gives you the most problems. And sometimes after you start moving and get heated up a little bit, the pain subsides. So maybe Carlos is getting to that point.
Yeah, I hope so, because it would just be, just from an entertainment standpoint, it'd be a lot of fun to see this team whole heading down the stretch. I still think this team could be a tough out in the playoffs if they can get the right people healthy. Let's move on to Yohan Duran and Griffin Jax. Griffin Jax might be their best player this year. He's been phenomenal. Duran has done well in save situations, and he's been absolutely horrifying when he hasn't been in save situations. I mean, to me, and then Wednesday night, Rocco used Jax for 2 innings. I think the right way to handle your bullpen the rest of the way is Jax is your setup guy, and maybe 2 innings if you need him. And Duran, you just save him for save situations, but he just hasn't handled the other situations well.
Correct. And Rocco broke from his normal policy yesterday on Wednesday when he had Jax go 2 innings, but it helped that Jax had an 8-pitch 7th inning, which allowed him to go out and have a 12-pitch 8th inning. Plus today was an off day, so he was willing to do that. So, he has emerged. people have said that the sweeper he throws is one of the best breaking pitches in baseball, just in terms of spin rate and movement. That is one of the tougher pitches to hit in baseball, and he has excelled at throwing that pitch this year. It's been impressive. You can argue, but Pablo Lopez is 15-8 with an ERA sinking toward the 3.5 level. You could make an argument that Jax could be their pitcher of the year, given how everything is falling apart in that bullpen. Like Brock Stewart not being there, and Justin Topa never pitching, and other guys breaking down, and Caleb Theobar struggling, and Duran being hot and cold. You could argue that he is their pitcher of the year.
Yeah, I think he is. And Pablo might pass him here the next couple of weeks, but right now, Griffin Jax has been the better pitcher. He's just been phenomenal. It is very encouraging that Pablo's gotten on the right track. Let's talk more about Pablo. Let's talk about Royce Lewis, Brooks Lee, and just the situation the Twins face right now. First, though, a reminder, we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studios. We want to thank Aquarius Home Services.
Scott for Aquarius Home Services. Making your life better is a huge priority for us at Aquarius. It may start with providing worry-free water or heating and cooling systems you can trust, but there's another very important reason. Aquarius is family-owned and operated. We work hard to earn the right to be recommended. That means upfront, no-surprise pricing, providing a 5-star experience, and treating your home and time with respect. And knowing we're just a click away at AquariusHomeservices.com.
Thanks also to another Minnesota company doing great things, Minnesota Masonic Charities.
When people think of the Freemasons, they often think of secret handshakes and unusual hats, and of course, the pancake breakfast. Minnesota Masonic Charities would prefer that you think about the work that they do right here in our community. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota, or the Masonic Children's Hospital and the Masonic Home in Bloomington. They are just a few examples of the important work that the Freemasons support here in Minnesota. As part of the largest fraternal organization in the world, Masons have consistently answered the call when it comes to charitable needs. We look forward to learning so much more about their many programs here in the weeks to come.
We'd also like you to hear from John Krasinski on his experience at True Vision Institute with his LASIK surgery.
Yeah, I'm a brand new man, Jim, this week. If for listeners of the John Krasinski show over the last month or more, I've been telling you all about True Vision Institute in Bloomington. And we've been talking a lot about the help that they gave me in the consultation to figure out how to correct my vision once and for all, and all the process of going through it. Well, finally, last week, I was able to go in and have LASIK surgery at True Vision. And, I've talked to people who have had it before, and they all say how much it changes their lives. I'm like, all right, come on. Can it really be that good? And here I am, less than a week out from surgery. And I'm telling you, it is that good. For the first time since I've been in 4th grade, I don't have glasses or contacts to mess with. I don't have to worry about going in for, every year or two for vision checkups and for new glasses and putting hundreds of dollars into new glasses or new contacts. A contact gets ripped and I got to go replace that. The best thing about it is I wake up in the morning and I'm not fumbling around for my glasses, so I can see, check my phone, look over at my wife and see her face. Like I'm seeing 100% clearly. And it happened almost immediately after the surgery. I went in for the surgery last week and I was a little nervous. You had a laser pointed at your eye. It's nerve wracking, but, the people at True Vision were so welcoming and calming and comforting, that it really took a lot of the anxiety away for me for the procedure itself. I was in and out in a little over an hour. The procedure itself actually only takes a couple of minutes. They do what they need to do to get your eyes fixed and they get you on your way. My mom gave me a ride home. I spent the night just kind of resting, sleeping. When I woke up the next morning, seeing 100% clearly, could drive to my follow-up appointment, 20/20 vision. Everything was great. And I still am kind of walking around pinching myself right now that I can't believe I don't have glasses or contacts anymore. And Dr. Chu was absolutely phenomenal through the process. I was nervous. He has a very soothing, calming voice. He takes you through it very easily. He puts you at ease. He makes you feel comfortable when you're on the table getting the procedure done. And it just was really helpful for me in just kind of taking away a lot of the nervousness that I had about it. He was so easygoing and was so reassuring, and just talked me through everything. It only took a few minutes to get done. And then I was out the door and on my way. A week later, I feel great. I'm seeing perfectly. I wish I would have done it 10 years ago. Go to chuvision.com and set up your consultation. Tell them the John Krasinski Show sent you. But honestly, I cannot speak highly enough about my experience there and about the results. It's just life-changing stuff.
Do you think they have enough pitching to survive the rest of this month? Now that Zebby Matthews looks like he's very up and down.
It's going to be touch and go. And I wrote about this earlier this week. This is why it's so tough relying on 3 rookies in your rotation. But here's the thing: you feel good when Bailey Ober's out there and when Pablo Lopez is out there, and you're almost headed in that direction with Simeon. And I think it's pretty remarkable because I don't see any strikeout stuff out of him, but he's able to pitch. He's got pitchability, as they like to say. You feel good about those 3 guys, at least. Anything you get from Zebby and Festa down the stretch will be a huge plus. So if you have 3 starters that you can rely on or expect to give you a good outing, you got a shot. You got a shot to extend winning streaks and avoid losing streaks. Of course, that wasn't really the problem with this team. It's been offense. And so I could say, yeah, they could sustain it. One, because offense looks like it's about to break out and they're starting to get healthy. And 2, you got 3 guys who are going to go out there to have a representative outing and try to put the Twins in position to win. So I think it's possible. That's the thing. I mean, you touched on it before, Jim. Teams, the rest of the league's going to be like, if the Twins get healthy going into the postseason, they could be a tough out. And I think they've got 3 starters that they can rely on in a short series. Bullpen's going to be interesting. You know, Louis Varland kind of being shortened up here with his outings, so we can see where that one's headed. But I think they have enough to get through the rest of the season.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope they make this as interesting as possible, or at least are set up. Whatever. I just want to see more baseball. I want to see a full, healthy team taking a real shot at this thing. Last week, we were at the Minnesota Valley Country Club. Did a live show down there. It was a lot of fun. Met a lot of cool people. And Roy popped something that really surprised me. He said he thinks Garth Jacks, maybe he should be a starter because of his pitch mix and the way he's just developed as a pitcher since he was a failed starter turned reliever. What do you think of that idea?
I thought it was very, very interesting. The week you were off, he brought it up. This is when Roy had his wild hair, which was hard to believe, but that was one of his wild hairs that day that start to extend Jacks and make him a starter. I got to be reminded of how good he is at changing speeds, because the thing is, if he's going to become a starter, he's got to be able to change speeds a little more frequently. That sweeper is the truth, though, and if he could change it and upset guys' timing. That helps him get through the order multiple times. So I could say he could do it. I mean, his pitching's evolved. His mechanics has gotten better. His stuff has gotten sharper. Would it be difficult for him to add a changeup or a splitter if he needs it and go there? So, but the thing is, if you don't have Jacks as a setup guy, you're going to have to go out and get a setup guy. And the Twins have preferred to fill the stuff from in-house. And I don't know who could live Griffin Jackson's life out of that bullpen. Brock Stewart, if he's ever healthy, would be one. Justin Topa, but I've never seen him pitch in a Twins uniform. They'd have to go out and get a couple of pieces to prop up that bullpen if they wanted Jacks to do it. But the Twins are a team. They've proven that they take everything under consideration. I think the timing was terrible. But they were thinking about getting Royce Lewis some reps at second base. Long term, that may be a good for this roster with Brooks Lee with a stronger, truer arm. Second base may be an option for Royce. So I wouldn't put it past the Twins to at least kick the idea around, especially if Jacks is open to it. So it's a very interesting theory by Roy, and it would give him another starter, and you wouldn't have to rely on Matthews and Festa next year. Having to grow up fast, and they can develop at their own pace. So I like the idea, but you're going to have to do a few other things in order to make up for the loss of him in the bullpen.
What fascinates me about the idea is that if you make Jax a starter, then Varland gets the hint, hey, your only path forward here is as a reliever, so go be a dominant reliever and make all your money there. Then if Varland ends up being a dominant setup man and Jax is an excellent starter, then you have improved your staff.
Yeah, you could. It could work, and of course you're going to have to break the news to Louis that he's going to have to be a reliever. That might be a conversation I want to have, but I know some of Louis' friends, and they're like, we think he should be a reliever. So maybe we could get. It takes a community to get someone to shift to the bullpen, and maybe that may have to happen with Louis if they decide to make Jax a starter.
Also, Louis just ought to look at the stat sheet. Does he want to walk around being a guy with a 7 ERA who is going to spend most of his time in the minors, or does he want to be a star in the big leagues? He can be a star as a setup man.
Yes, he could. And he may not end up pitching for the Twins for his whole career, but decent setup guy, they make a decent chunk of change. Of course, to me, $1 million is a decent chunk of change, but Louis could make more than that if he's an effective reliever. So there's value to that. But we've kind of morphed into this Louis Varland conversation. But think about Louis too. Is I think he's a late bloomer, and I think there's still time for him to develop. I just remember looking at his numbers, and the kid from LSU, Paul Skeens, who's now with the Pittsburgh Pirates, he threw more innings in his senior year at LSU than Louis did in 3 years at Concordia. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, how much experience, how many batters has Louis faced in college as a professional? So I still think there's something there.
That's an interesting point. All right, last topic for today. And again, check out the rest of the shows at talknorth.com. We've got great people up and down the line. We've added Randy Shaver's high school football show. We've Dawn Mitchell's show. This week it's Howard Megdal, a mover and shaker in the world of women's sports coverage. We've got Russo, Jeff Diamond, John Krasinski, Kevin Gorg, Mike Grimm on the Gophers, outdoor content. Check it all out. We do appreciate it. Last topic for today. Royce Lewis, I would have said, even as a month ago, Royce Lewis had the best personality of any athlete I have ever encountered, and I've been doing this a very long time. Has anything changed with his attitude or his aura in the last month going through the slump, or has he handled it pretty well?
I think he's handled it fairly well. I think the one thing that hurts him is that he's not afraid to. He doesn't avoid any subject, and sometimes he probably needs to finesse that because it was when the whole second base thing came up. He wasn't afraid to talk about it. But he may have talked about it a little bit too much and should have just kind of moved on from there. But and he's still a young guy. He's learning, but he wants to be honest. He wants to be authentic.
Which I appreciate.
It. Exactly. As a reporter, you want that stuff.
Yeah.
You want transparency with the guys you cover. I didn't notice anything too dramatic in the mood swing from him when he was going through what he was going through. You saw a couple incidents where he looked frustrated after an at bat and after chasing pitches way off the plate. You definitely saw that. But no. And, having been in there, I was in there 2 or 3 times this week, and he's still had the smile on his face. It still looks positive. So, and that's the credit to him, because if you're able to stay the same way when things are bad, that stops you from making your problems even worse on the field. So, another quality that he is showing in his early career. Okay,
predictions are ridiculous, but they're also kind of fun. Let's each offer a prediction. What happens the rest of this season for the Twins? I'll go first while you think about it. I think they start getting healthier. They surge. I don't think they win. I think they're too far out of the division. I don't think they'll win the division. I think they might creep up on Kansas City for that second wild card. I think they definitely get in as a wild card. I think they win their first round series. And I don't think they go farther than that. What do you think?
I think they're a wild card team for sure. I mean, the naysayers and the people who are doom and gloom are differing with me because I mentioned that on Twitter yesterday and everybody went bananas. But I think they can catch Kansas City. The crazy thing about what's going on now, Jim, is that as of before yesterday's games, Cleveland and the Yankees had the same record in the American League. So there's a battle there now for the top seed in the American League. So that would put the other team in the Twins side of the bracket, whoever finishes second. So it's going to be really topsy-turvy going down the stretch here. But I see the Twins, they got a favorable series this weekend against the Reds. The Red Sox are cratered. They get them after Cleveland. And they've got the Marlins. So they got 3 series that they need to win for sure. And what they do in the 4 games against Cleveland and 3 against Baltimore will determine their fate. I say they catch the Royals for the second wild card spot.
All righty. Good stuff. He's LaVelle Neal from the Star Tribune. Thanks for the work today, LaVelle. We'll have Roy back with us next week as we head down the stretch here. Again, check out TalkNorth.com, subscribe to the shows you like, and we'll talk to you next week.